BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get in on our $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200K. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. Welcome to the Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals podcast, part of the Bleav Network, joined by former tight end and Super Bowl 33 participant Ed Smith. My name is Javon Adams. Be sure to subscribe, comment, rate, and follow the podcast and tell all of your Arizona Cardinal fans and friends to do the same. You can also watch us on Bleav TV around the country, in the airports, and on YouTube. Read the top Bleav stories at si.com and follow us across all our Bleav socials. Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. What is good, my brother Ed?
Hey, week 3 in the books for the Cardinals, and that one went about how I expected. I think we both thought we might have an outside shot, but in the end, that one kind of rolled down the hill the way we kind of imagined it, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, so interesting. The game was interesting, so we're definitely going to get into the game. But the final score, because again, I'm pulling it up here. What was it? 22-13. But it was. It's almost, it makes you think that the game was closer than it was, and in some ways it was, and in some ways it wasn't. So a couple of things that I want to get into today are missed opportunities for the Cardinals, run game that failed to deliver, and Kyler's performance. And defense shuts out the Lions in the second half, but that can also be a little bit misleading as well. So first of all, the card missed opportunities. So I'm coming back because it was a little bit of a hectic weekend. So I'm on the way back from California, and I'm listening to the game. And so the Cardinals go into the half. They're down 20-10, and so they're kind of in it. I mean, there was a kind of a gimmick play. What was it? The hook and lateral play that ended up generating some offense for the Detroit Lions. But the Cardinals, in the second half of the game, because I put in the notes there, in the second half of the game, they had the ball 7 times in the second half, and they only generated 3 points. And when I say that, because they had a turnover on downs, they had there was one where they had where Kyler Murray was in the game. They went for it on 4th down. He didn't get the first down. Well, he got it, and then there was a challenge, and it was overturned. But for that 3rd down play, it was where they used DeMarcado, where I thought they could have used Connor. I mean, Connor didn't have a great running game to begin with in terms of yardage, in terms of rushing yards. But it's just like they would go for it when they should have gone for a field goal. They wouldn't convert on 3rd down, it just seemed like so many missed opportunities to still be in the game and have an opportunity to tie it up. And I wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it all right there, 20-10 at the half, and you still felt like Detroit had total control of this game. And then, you look at the final score, 20-13, and man, it was a 1-possession game. We had so many opportunities, get down to the red zone, don't perform, we couldn't cash in at all. And then it was almost like, I don't know, you got the feeling, and neither one of us was at the game, but it was almost like they were reserved to lose. It was like, where was the fire to a certain degree? It was like, this was a game we could have actually won. We shut their offense down, 0 points in the second half, only a 10-point deficit, yet it still felt like we either didn't want it or just couldn't get it out of their hands. I'm not going to say they toyed with us, but I mean, I didn't see any sense of urgency, even from the Lions to a certain degree, meaning like they felt threatened at any point. It was almost like this game was, I don't know, just had a weird and strange feeling to it. And it was one of those ones when it was finally done, you kind of just shook your head like, were we in that one? And I'm it's like,
right.
You look at the final score, 20-13, and you would have thought it would have just been fire coming down the stretch because, I mean, you scored one more time, and like you said, we scored 3 points in the second half. So, and they scored 0. So I don't know, just had a weird feeling. I will say, I think we abandoned the run game again.
And the Lions did not abandon
The
the run
Lions
game
did
because
not.
they
Yeah.
had 187 yards rushing to 77 for the Cardinals, with Kyler Murray being the top rusher for the squad. So yeah, continue on that.
43 carries for the Lions. 43. And what do they do with that 43? They turn that into only 23 pass attempts with a lot of play action, which helps
Yes.
them. And that's what we're trying to get to. On the flip side, I look at total number of plays. They ran 68 to our 53, and then possessed the ball for 36 minutes and 49
Now that's
seconds
big.
compared to our 23 minutes and 11 seconds. That means ball control. They had the ball. It was like keep away to a certain degree. We would get the ball, punt it back to them, then they would just grind it out, run some clock. Didn't even have to score almost to a certain degree, and then punt it back to us. We 3 and out or short drive, give it back to them so they could grind it out for another 5 or 6 minutes. And it was almost like field position, just back.
I don't even get to your point exactly. It's I think you mentioned it just a few moments ago that it's almost as if the Lions, they weren't concerned about scoring any points. We just want to keep the ball away from. Let's just keep the ball and we'll be okay. Because I Bleav that the Lions are concerned about their offense. Just their I mean, we do this thing twice a week, y'all. So Mondays and Thursdays. Mondays we talk about the game that was, as we're doing now. Thursdays we talk about the opponent that's coming up. And so on Thursday's show, we talked about this. We talked about how when Goff has all these attempts, I mean, all these pass attempts, could that be, if we can get him to pass a little bit more, get him to draw back more, then that would be in the Cardinals' advantage. And that didn't happen. And they really were able to mitigate the number of times that they let Goff drop back.
It's what they feel comfortable with Goff. He's not like the week before when they lost to Tampa at home. It's almost like they lost we talked about this the other day, their identity. They lost their identity. All of a sudden, Goff was dropping back 45, 50 times. That's not them. They are throw the ball 25 times, but hit us with in the mouth, and we couldn't stop the run. I mean, they ran at will on us to a certain degree, and that set everything up for them. And like I said, once it felt like they just had control of this game, and they just, you would think they would have some urgency on their side too to score and put this one away. But it's almost like, okay, let's just play the field position game. We'll give it back to them, let them do whatever they're going to do because they're not doing anything, and we'll get it back, and we'll just, grind this one out. And that's exactly kind of what happened. Time possession killed us. Total yards, they had 373 to our 277, I think it was. Just not enough offense. And here's the thing, Jay.
Yeah.
You and I talk about this all the time. They were the more talented team in terms of their roster. They have all pros and some pro bowlers at certain positions. And, we got Kyler. We got Baker. That's pretty much it in terms of our name brand recognition. They have more talent on their roster. So in a game like this, we have to be even more on our, A game to get one of these. We saw what happened in Buffalo a few weeks ago. More talent over there. We were at our A game in the first half, just couldn't keep it up in the second half. They come back and win it. This one, we kind of just fell behind, and it felt like big brother playing with little brother a little bit. They were just, toying with us to a certain degree because, like I said, at no point it was almost like I kept thinking the Cardinals could win this one. And I was like, nah, it felt like this was just over, and we never threatened them at all. And, we'll talk about Kyler's performance and some other performances, but this is going to be, when we play teams that have a better roster than us, they're going to dominate us at the line of scrimmage, kind of manhandle us in certain instances, and have control of the game. And that's what I saw a lot of. We didn't have enough to threaten them at all. And it just kind of showed.
So Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. He's Ed Smith. I'm Javon Adams. So we're going to get to Kyler's performance, but here's the thing. So 18 rushing attempts, and those are including the ones from Kyler Murray.
Total.
Total. Do you think? I mean, because in the second half, the run game was non-existent. So is that one of those things where you get in your own head as an offensive coordinator, where you say we can't run the ball on them, so we won't run the ball, as opposed to, look, if we're having a difficult time running the ball, we're going to keep running the ball, because if nothing else, we have to keep them honest. Because if I know you've abandoned the run, then all I got to do is just make sure we'll let you get a couple of drives going. But as long as we can get you to the point where you eventually get a 3 and out, I mean, we get you off the field and we play that field position game, then we win the game. Did they get in their own heads and say, maybe we don't have the horses today because our offensive line is still banged up and all that? Did they get in their heads and abandon the run, and just in abandoning the run?
Yes, they did. And here's the thing, Jay, you have to be creative in how you try to do things. Lack of creativity, in my opinion, kills this run game. It makes it look so bland that they're like, well, we can't do it, so we're not going to do it. Yes, right. You can. You can, maybe bring some different motion. What I'd say the other day, different formations, different packages, different motions. I'm watching some of these other games with other teams, all teams around the NFL. One of the new trends is you get a tight end or somebody on the right side, left side of the formation. You bring him over to get him involved on play side by kicking out and stuff like that. I love these motions that bring guys in to the point of attack with a running, head start, and they're plowing through there, helping open up gaps and stuff like that. Misdirection, man, that's a huge thing. How many misdirection plays do we run? We not run nothing. Everything we do is read option, Kyler step back. He either gives it to Connor or whoever. They get, a yard or two or hit in the backfield. No creativity. You got to be creative. And here's the thing. When you're not creative, when it looks so bland and average, of course you're like, well, that's not working. We're just not going to do that. When you're doing stuff like, San Francisco, like the Rams, when you're pounding the rock, and getting yardage with creativity and some of these blocking schemes and stuff like that, you stick with it. But with us, it's like we try a couple times. There's no excuse. We were not that far behind, Jay, even at the half. After the half, to abandon everything in the second half and just turn into this team that's once again throwing the ball from sideline to sideline with no running attack. We weren't down that much. We were only 10 points down at the half. The final score, we're only down by 7. So why are you abandoning the run or not keeping the ball from them? Yeah. Like I said, we just got to a point where it was like, well, we had to keep giving it back to them, and they did what they had to do. They just grinded it out. How many times you said team score 0 points in the second half without building like this huge lead? Yet, like I said, it never felt like this game was out of their hands. Like they did what they wanted to do, and meanwhile we just and that's a lesson. That's a lesson. And I need to see them make some adjustments and corrections. Otherwise we're going to be in the same boat throughout this season where it just looks like the same old thing again.
And oftentimes when you're playing team sports, the coaches are getting on players because they're falling on bad habits or bad tendencies. And I think it's the same thing that when you're the defense offensive coordinator, when you're the head coach, whatever, you can't fall on your own those bad tendencies, those bad behaviors. You have to push yourself, because looking at a game like the win over the Rams, that is where you say, yes, that do more of that. Be creative in that way. Be aggressive. Do more of that. Or even the first half of the Bills game. Yes, do more of this, as opposed to falling back on what you've done previously. And also, and I promise y'all, we're going to get to in terms of Kyler Murray. But when we look at when to be aggressive and when not to be aggressive, I'm looking at what it was. The score was 20-10. The Cardinals, they ultimately had a turnover on downs. It was in the first half of the game. And this is they went for it when they were on the Detroit 24, instead of kicking a field goal. You take some of those points, so that, because if you realize that it's going to be one of those games where when we get the ball, we need to try to do what we can with it. Take the points instead of being so aggressive in that way. And that's one of those calls that comes from the head coach. Am I right?
Absolutely. He's the overseer of when we go for it and when we don't, when we try to trick the play, when we don't, that type of thing. And, you like to see the aggressiveness sometime, but it's the smarts. It's the knowing when. Every fourth down and every let's go for it is not created equal. Score has to dictate.
Yeah.
Where you're at on the field has to dictate. And we've seen some bad people, some bad coaches.
Campbell will do that sometimes too. Campbell, the
Campbell,
coach of the Lions, sometimes he'll be a little bit too aggressive in
yeah,
that way.
Staley before he got fired in Los Angeles. I mean, sometimes like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So there is something to be said for when to go for it and when to fold and get that three. And I guess it's something that Gannon and the crew are still trying to figure out. I'd love to, I wish, we had insight as to the process, whether they're using all analytics or whether it's just a feel or, the conversation, who Gannon is relying on to give him the feedback to say, let's either do it or, because the decisions have to be made quickly.
Yeah.
And everybody has to be prepared for the decision. If Gannon says, hey, yeah, let's go for it. That's what usually like 2 plays prior, you're telling the offensive coordinator, look, you got 2 plays to get this. It's 3rd and 4th down. We're down here. That way it's not a surprise. So what's the process? I'd love to know where they are in trying to figure things out. You got to be prepared. And maybe part of it is, they're still trying to figure some of that stuff out. But I mean, you can tell we're, like I say, you add on the fact that we're just not that talent laden. We don't have a whole bunch of, horses over here. You take that means that everything else has to be that much crisper. Coaching and the decisions, playing and the execution, and we're just not there yet. It looked like, and you think about this game, it's like we actually could have won this game, but it did not feel as close as the final score would dictate and tell you. And it's just a weird feeling,
Now let's get to Kyler Murray. So if you and I have been doing a radio show for, let's say if we've been doing a show, if we had done it once or twice, let's say we started on the beginning of the year, first couple of weeks, maybe there's a little bit of awkwardness. By the third month, by the 8th or 12th week, we should start to be gelling a little bit. If we're still stepping on each other, or there seems to be that there's no joy in Whoville, right? When we get to the end of the first year that we've been together in terms of working together, then there has to be some type of meeting, some type of call, something. So what I'm using that as an analogy for is when we see the really good things from Kyler last week, the first half of the Bills game. And then there's just maybe trying to force it, or maybe targeting a Marvin Harrison Jr. too much, maybe not using your tight end. Can those things be coached up and out of you, so that, because in a game where points were going to be is really important, because even though your defense was throwing a shutout, especially then, because your defense was trying to do all they could, sometimes they were extending drives because they couldn't get off the field, those 3rd and longs, and the Lions would convert just to keep the drive going, even if they ultimately punted, but they just kept the ball a little bit longer. Those are the things that the quarterback, knowing that I got to do something, and to be able to sustain some drives and keep it going. Did I don't want to say regress, but did he stay at the same level he was on last week, let's say, as opposed to going up to the next level? Did it concern you? Did it give you a moment of pause with his performance yesterday? Even though he was, he dropped back, he had 32 attempts in terms of in the passing game. He had 45 yards rushing, 21 of 34, 207 yards, but it just, as you mentioned with the game in general, something seemed to be a little bit off. Was Kyler that way as well?
There was absolutely nothing dynamic about his performance. When you think about some of these quarterbacks, the elite ones, like for instance, we'll get Josh Allen tonight. Josh can take over a game without even throwing a whole bunch with his legs, and he does that consistently. He won that game against us by getting his legs into the game. Second half especially.
Yeah.
You look at what Mahomes does, doesn't have the greatest games all the time. He can take over a game just with his mind and game plan, getting the
Right.
ball to the right guys, getting in and out of the right plays. It seems like he's always doing something dynamic. We have probably one of the most dynamic quarterbacks. The only thing against him is his size, but his speed and his fast twitch and getting out of the pocket, and when he's moving and he's got a great ball, he can throw a great ball. He was about as average in this game. I mean, what did he do well? What did he do great? Not much. I mean, he threw the ball decent, not a whole lot of yardage as far 207 yards passing. Okay. Everybody's down across the board this year. Okay. Running the ball, okay, 45 yards. We've seen Lamar Jackson do that on one play in his sleep. It's like we're waiting for.
Are we being too critical of the man, though, or is it these are the real? He has a high ceiling, and therefore we want to see him get closer to that ceiling as opposed to going to being closer to the floor.
The magic word for me, Jay, is consistency. We want to see it more and more, and have it affect these games more and more. We always talk like when other teams, when they talk, prior to the games, like, wow, looking at film, Kyler scares me, man. I'm like, until you see it for real, I mean, he can, you just don't know what to expect. And then he just kind of goes out there, and I'm still trying to figure this out. Then I'll use this word again, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to figure out not just what the team and offensive identity is.
Yeah.
What is Kyler's ultimate identity? What is he going to be week in and week out? You got to, at some point, you have to be something. Jared Goff, he's a play action guy. Throw the ball probably 25 times, stay in the pocket. As long as Jared doesn't make mistakes, that's a great day for him. That's not Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray should be explosive, down the field, throwing the ball, out on the edges, running the ball. These just runs, you're like, oh my God. And he does it every now and then, right?
Right.
He'll scramble in the pocket, run around for 10 seconds, make a throw. It's like, wow. And then you just won't see it for a game or two. Like, I'm trying to think, what great play did he make in this game compared to what, like when we watched him with the Rams? The Rams, it was a wounded animal coming here, but it was like, damn, Kyler Murray for MVP. And then you think about this game, it was kind of like better opponent, obviously. And it was like, what did he do? I don't know. I guess he ran the ball 45 yards average, threw the ball, didn't make too many mistakes. All right, okay. That's not what we're looking for Kyler Murray, though. Yeah. He's supposed to be our dynamic Superman, get him out of, and maybe there's two things going on, Jay. Either he's fighting the training, what they want him to be, because they could be telling him, Kyler, this is what we want more from you. We want you out on the edges. We want you under center, play action, and he doesn't want to do that. Or he is just made up in his mind, this is what I am, and this is what I'm going to be. I want to make sure I play it safe out here a little bit. And, because I don't want to be out there getting hit too much. Something is going on where he's not just letting it go, or they're not pushing him to the edge. Kyler, we got some plays designed, to get you out on the edge and maybe, hit the deep one. Or, man, you see that green in front of you, go get it, something's it's just not there. Jay, it's just not quite curling.
Right, curling quite right, yeah.
And I don't know, and I said to you yesterday or last week when we did the show, we're getting to the point now, game 3 and 4 next week, where we should know what this team is identity-wise. What could you say if you look at the
I don't know.
And I said this last week. Yeah. I know. When I talked about Detroit, I was like, they got away from their identity against Tampa, but we know what they are. What are they, Jay? Downhill running team, play action passes with Goff, keep him in the 25 passing range, something like that. But we know what they do. They came in, they ran the ball 43 times, Goff threw the ball. Yeah. Goff threw the ball 23 times. They walk out here with a victory. That's what they are. They're going to throw a trick play in there every now and then. They did it with the hook and lateral. They're going to go for it on fourth, aggressively on fourth. Everything that the Lions are, they came in and showed us what they are.
Yeah.
Walked out of here with a victory. I will still ask you and our fans today, okay, what are the Cardinals? Are we a running team? No.
Mm.
Are we a air raid team that we claimed to be a few years ago? No.
I thought we could have been balanced based off of that extremely small sample size against of the Rams. I thought that was going to be the offense showed us what they can be, and if that was 100% of what the offense can be, at least give me 80 to 90 every week, something like that, because that will probably be good enough to win a lot of games.
We tripped into that one because the Rams were so beat up.
Mm.
And I'll tell you, you look what the Rams did this week by beating San Fran. We obviously didn't get their best punch. They rebounded this week and showed they actually can still do it. They were just in a world of hurt when they walked in the door, and we jumped on them early, and that was a snowball game. Everybody, Jay, I've been on them 1,000 times, especially in baseball. The first inning, we jump out and we scored 10 runs, right? And it's like, damn. And we end up winning the game 15-9, right? And it's like we just cruised to the end. Everybody got their knocks in early. All of a sudden everybody's joking on the bench, not paying attention to who's in there throwing. You get up to the plate, you forget all about your plan of attack. I'm just go up here and swing. I already got my 2, so 3 would be nice, but I already got 2 hits. So instead of going 4 for 4 or 4 for 5, 2 for 5, that's cool. And that's kind of last week we got on top and we just cruised the victory. The Rams, I don't say they laid down, but they were playing with water guns. We had our pistols out. So again, but it's false sense of security. I don't know what it is, but because we were able to dominate that game and play well, and then like I said, another good team comes in here, and it's like, okay, can we replicate that? Replicate it, but kind of shape it up a little bit where it might look a little different. I don't know I have no idea what the game plan was this past week. I don't know what they were thinking. Detroit just came in here, handled their business, walked out, and it was almost like, thank you, may I have another. I don't know what, I still can't tell you what what the Cardinals are or what they plan to be. So another week will come. This week we'll talk about the next opponent up, and we'll try to figure out, well, what do they have to do to win this?
Whose fault is that? Or who's not fault? Whose responsibility is that? The head coach, right? Is it the head coach? Is it the GM? Whose fault is that when it comes to the identity of a team?
It starts with the head coach. Now, the GM he goes to the head coach. What type of players are we looking to bring in here? And, we want physical, smash mouth, run down the list, or we want fast, like Miami. We want dudes that can run out the gym in a half a second. We want the cheetah. We want the, everybody has, and then our offensive lineman. Well, we want big old, just horses.
Because the Lions, what was it? Quite a few times during that game, they six offensive linemen, because on the a six man offensive line plus adding the tight ends, and all they saying is, "We gonna run. Can you stop us?"
I mean, that's their identity, right? That's what they hang their hat. They basically told us, "This is what we're gonna do. Stop us." That's what you just said, and we knew what they were gonna do, and we couldn't stop them because one, they're more talented up front. Then they had a better game plan. Now, whose responsibility is that? It all starts, in my opinion, with the head coach basically informing everybody on both sides of the ball who we are and this is how we're going to do it. Now, Gannon, from the beginning, you could tell he's not a stern disciplinarian, but he's a dude that wants order, and that's good. Yeah. He changed some rules, so he wants order. We just have to take everybody. You got to take it to those next steps now. We just don't want clean meeting rooms. We got to have an identity in terms of who we are on the field as well. So maybe his next steps are, okay, I clean up some things in here. Our meetings are better. They're crisper. Everybody's on time. Now, what are we like? We need to either get the dudes in here or we got the dudes in there. We got to start figuring out this is how we're going to play. Right. And there's nothing wrong with maybe some organizations are chameleons. Maybe from in New England, every week they were a different team. One week they would throw the ball all over the field. Tomlin had 50 pass plays. And then they had a game a few years ago when they threw the ball 2 times or something like that.
Yeah.
They were like, we're going to run it until you can stop us from running. So you can be a chameleon, but even that's an identity, right? That's an identity of we're going to form shape to whatever we have to be. And we need the dudes that can do that in this room. We couldn't do it with this group, or with these particular guys. We can be different every week. Now, other organizations are, hey, we're going to, like you said, now, like in San Fran, they are just all hurt right now. You talked about the other day.
My theory,
like
man.
Yes,
my theory.
Yeah. They are a mass unit, but we know when they have the ball, what they trying to do. They trying to use Debo, McCaffrey, run it down your throat. Purdy, just don't do anything stupid. Get us into the right plays, get the ball into the playmaker's hands. That's their identity. Once again, we're going into another week. After this performance, I have no idea what they're trying to do. And I don't know.
Speaking of trying to do, the defense. So there's, on one hand, you say to the defense, good job. On the other hand, you say, we got to get off the field. So here's good job. You didn't give up any points in the second half. So 20 points is what ended up being given up. 20 points was the total of, in terms of the points that the Lions had. They got some opportunistic plays. So they had an interception in the second to begin the second half of the game, but the offense couldn't capitalize on it. But one of the things on the other side is the defense, they couldn't get off the field in those times where to give the ball back to the offense. Even in the second half, it was long enough drives to bring the clock down before the Lions ultimately would have to punt, to then give it to the offense, and then they're punting again on the Cardinals offense, or maybe trying to go for it when they shouldn't have, and turning the ball over on downs. Your assessment of the defense? I mean, I guess I want to give them a C, because again, you want them to get off when they need to get off when the time is there, but then they stood up straight in terms of not giving up any points in the second half. And there has to be some type of praise, if nothing else, for that.
They did a good job. They really did a solid, good job. Anytime you can hold a team to no points in the second half. If you'd have said to me at the start of the game, before the game, we're going to hold the Detroit Lions to 20 points, I've been like, that's a W. The over-under on this game was near 50 points. I think it was like 50 and a half.
51.5.
51 points. So that means there was going to be some firepower out there somewhere. And for us to say that we held them to 20 points, I'd be like, oh, shoot, we probably won that one like 30-20 or something like that. Yeah. So the defense did their job. Once again, though, I'll ask you, and they're like right now, and because I watch around the league, it's like I have, I get all these glimpses of what's going on out there. Yeah. Right now, I tell you what, Jay, you do not want to go to Minnesota and play that defense at home. I don't know what the Minnesota defense would look like on the road, but when they play at home, I'm picking them every single time. I've seen what they've done to San Fran. I see what they've done to the Houston Texans this past week. And when I'm saying confusing quarterbacks and throwing looks at them, because I watched some of the pregame shows, Brian Flores he's masterfully put some stuff together, show you one thing, get to another. And he's running some of the same Tampa 2 and different, man unders and that, confusing the heck out of these young quarterbacks. He got Purdy the week before. He got C.J. Stroud this week. That, to me, once again, use the word, is an identity. They are getting after the quarterback, confusing the quarterbacks, blitzing the quarterbacks. Yeah. And then you think about our attack, it's like, okay, it was solid. I didn't see them throwing a whole bunch of stuff at Goff. He had time to throw. We sacked him, 2 times. Okay. He's not a dynamic quarterback, but he's not a dude you want to just let sit back there. You want to try to get after him. The problem is with our front four, you're not getting after anybody with our front four, which means You have to be aggressive. Send some other dudes to help out. And we didn't, which leads me to believe, okay, our philosophy is bend, don't break. You know, we just try to keep it. That's not going to win you a whole bunch of games. You get after somebody like Goff when you find out that what we did to Stafford the week before.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you want to be aggressive. You know, I didn't, although it ended up well, I still didn't like the game plan. We just let them sit back there and we let them run the ball. Could never stop them. If they're running the ball that successfully, Jay, you know what you do? You bring 8, you bring 9 down into the box. Force them to have to throw the ball, period. We never did that. We let them run it 43 times for 187 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, we never. If we did bring 8 and 9 down the box, it was very unsuccessful. I know Buddha made some plays. It seemed like Buddha was making plays in the middle, like the middle of the field, to 7, 8 yards down the field, not at the line of scrimmage. You know, so that means he was catching a lot instead of delivering a lot. So, good job for the defense. Once again, I don't know what the identity is. Are we a blitzing team?
Man, you got me thinking about that's. I mean, what you're talking about identity is furthering the conversation that you started last week. That is true. What is the identity? Because you should start to it. This is week 3, so you should start to be saying, I think this is what their identity is, and you still can't say on the offensive and defensive side of the ball what it is.
Either side, yeah.
You see glimpses, and you say, is that the identity? Wait, is that? If that is, we don't like that, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's just not there. It's not our who we are as a team. Like I said, it's been cleaned up a little bit, but I'm still waiting to see, like, are we a get after team, a nasty team, a hard-nosed running team, dynamic throwing team?
Yeah.
You answered, like if they did a questionnaire, you know, to self-assessment, there'd be a lot of unchecked boxes because there's a lot of people like, I'm not sure. Hey, dude, what'd you put for number 3? You know, I don't know, man. I just put on C. I wasn't quite sure. You know, I don't know. I really don't know.
All right. Well, he is Ed Smith. I'm Javon Adams. We do this thing twice a week. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Tell all your Arizona Cardinals fans and friends about what we have here. Bleav in the Arizona Cardinals. We do it Monday and Thursday. Monday, we look back on the game that was. And Thursday, we look ahead to the upcoming opponent. Again, when we see y'all on Thursday, we'll be talking about another home game, which is cool. And hopefully the Cardinals will be able to end this 2-1 on this homestand, if you will. And so, as always, we are presented by Bet Online. And as we always like to say around this time, are you okay?